This is the You Winning Life Podcast, your number one source for mastering a positive existence. Each episode will be interviewing exceptional people, giving you empowering insights, and guiding you to extraordinary outcomes. Learn from specialists in the worlds of integrative and natural wellness, spirituality, psychology, and entrepreneurship, so you too can be winning life. Now, here's your host, licensed marriage and family therapist, certified neuro-emotional technique practitioner, and certified entrepreneur coach, Jason Wasser.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the You Winning Life podcast. I'm here with a really amazing guest. He's a CEO and founder of Hoss Pratt International. He's an author, he's a realtor, coach, trainer. If you have any interest in the world of real estate, this is the episode that you are going to want to grab your pen, take out a notepad, open up your Google Docs, and take some serious notes. Unless you're driving, in that case, it'll be on replay over and over again for you. So really want to welcome Hoss Pratt. Thanks so much for joining us today.
It's great to be here, Jason.
So I know we met less than a year ago briefly at the Business Fishing School's Business Growth Summit. And one of the things that I really loved about your story is the place of where you went from being from a small town, right? And having to go from the small town to the big town to make a massive risk. So please share us a little bit about that.
Yeah, Jason, for me, all odds were stacked against me. I grew up in Northwest Missouri. I worked on a dairy farm, barely made it through high school, didn't go to college. And I was lost, man. I was like one of those kids that were in just a small Midwest town that I thought I was always different. I always had an ambition, to be successful, but I didn't really know how to apply it. And about that time, there was a guy that came into my life. His name was Jimbo. And I was a teenager, and Jimbo was a millionaire. His family invented the hay baler, and he was wealthy, man. And he didn't like anybody, but for whatever reason, he liked this 16-year-old kid, man. And he taught me a lot. I mean, I talked to the guy every day. I was at his house every day. We talked business. We talked, street smarts. But we talked mindset, and he just really had an impact on me. And he gave me several pieces of advice. And one of the pieces of advice he gave me early on was he said, start a business because profits are better than wages. And you see, I always wanted my success to be in my hands. I didn't want to give it to somebody else. I didn't want to invest it in a company for 40 years and then get laid off and, have no control. And so to me, it was always important that I was in control of my destiny. And Jimbo played a huge part in that. So as a teenager, I started Pratt Lawns, and I started cold calling the white pages of the phone book in the winter. And I racked up 100 lawns my first year, went and got my first business loan. I didn't own a lawnmower, by the way, when I was getting the lawns. And that's one of the lessons I think in business. You always go get the lawns first before you go get the loan. And I started mowing grass. And I did that for years. I was making six figures as a teenager in that small town of Missouri. And that was where it all started for me.
So how were you lucky enough to get Jimbo into your life? Because I know one of the things that I love talking about in our community of entrepreneurs talk about is finding that mentor, right? And two ways of doing it. One is like hiring a coach, but you were really lucky as a teenager to have someone in your life who was an adult who has already been successful. So
I think here's how it works usually. Usually you need to hire the coach to get the results. Then you'll attract the mentor. I don't think you find mentors, you attract them. And you attract them by being in pursuit, and it's the law of attraction. It's the people that come into your life that you attract at the moments that you need them. And I think that's the right way to look at it. Looking back with Jimbo, I don't know why he came into my life. All I know is there's been people like Jimbo that have came into my life because I've always been passionately pursuing a purpose. And I think that, God put him in my life because I look back, I look at my family today, man. I look at what I do for a living. God put that man in my life. There's no other way around it. Because here's what he did. He said, Hoss, I'd mowed grass for years. And then he goes, you ready for the next step? I go, what do I do, Jimbo? He goes, it's time to sell it. I'm like, what do you mean sell it? We did it, buddy. I'm rich, I'm making six figures as a teenager. It's and he goes, it's time to sell it and move. I'm like, why? He goes, because you become a product of your environment. So make sure your environment's one you want to become a product of. I'm like, well, what do you mean? He goes, you need to be in an environment of millionaires. You need to be where money flows. You need to be where the economy is growing. you need to be where people get it. And I go, where's that? He goes, move to Texas. I said, why? He goes, you belong there. You belong in Dallas, Texas. And I said, Jim, I've never been there, buddy. I've never been out of the state of Missouri. He goes, let's go. And he took me on my first airplane ride. And I was 19 and flew down to Dallas on a weekend. It was like 115 degrees here in August. And we drove around. We rented a Cadillac DeVille, drove around, listening to Sammy Kershaw in the car, man. Like I was like just blown away, the small town kid coming to this big city and looking at all the opportunity. And he just saw it in my eye. He goes, you want to move here, don't you? I said, yes, sir, I'm going to move. He goes, when do you want to move? I go, I don't know. I go, probably this winter. He goes, you can't just do that. You got to set the date. He goes, set the date. And I said, November 15th, I'm moving. And he goes, okay, make the call. And I knew what that meant. I called my brother, Brad, and I said, Brad, I'm moving to Texas on November 15th. I'm going to give you first right of refusal to buy Pratt Lawns. And if you want it, I'll train you and you can buy it. He goes, I'll take it. And so I flew back home, trained my brother, Brad, to take over the lawn service, got prepared, and I moved to Dallas with my suitcase and my 36-inch JVC TV. And I drove 9 hours to Texas, left at 2:30 in the morning, and I never went home. I never went back. I came here to go make something of myself. I didn't know a single soul here. Nobody. Incredible. Got my 400 square foot apartment, got there, and I remember sitting in that apartment when I first got here. And I remember just sitting around thinking, man, I could be anybody I want to be here. I could be anyone. Nobody knows me. I could go to the grocery store. Nobody knows me. I could go anywhere. And the freedom that I felt in that moment, man, was like, it changed me. Like it was huge. And yeah.
Do you feel like you always had that fearlessness inside of you? Because I know, right, we can see the people that we meet that they're the more timid or the more tentative, right, to not take that step, right? And then time will pass and they'll miss the opportunities. But it sounds to me like you've always been able to just jump to that next step. Or has there been a time in your life where you really did struggle with that tentativeness and that decision making and the fear of jumping all in?
It's a great question. One thing I've always been grateful for is my youth. So I remember then being so grateful that I was a teenager. And I'm a teenager and I got it. I'm a teenager and I own my own business. And I'm a teenager and I have a mentor like Jimbo. And so I always looked at my youth that way. Like today, I'm 37, I feel like I'm 90, I'm an old soul, but I'm 37, but it's my youth. And I always looked at it like I had nothing to lose. And I have a saying, it's one life fully lived. And my life will be fully lived, and I will live my life legendary, and I'm going to do everything I possibly can to leave this world better than I found it. And I'm going to lay my fear out there on the line to be used as a tool and used for good. And I'm going to surrender to that process. And for me, I've always had that mindset. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to go against the grain. I'm going to do what is unorthodox. And so from early on, Jason, I always remember thinking that way. So me leaving a successful business and moving away, there was no security in that for me, man. There was no security in St. Joe, Missouri, making six figures. And I'm willing at every level to walk away from whatever I've built for something more. And I think that's the distinction, everything, we get into it, you're going to hear many of that stories where I've had to walk away from everything I built into the unknown. And I think that's what makes me crazy is I'm willing to do it. Dude, I will walk away from everything I've built right now, Jason. I swear to God, I will. And I will go and I don't care. I have no security in what I've built. All my security is being willing to be used as a tool and step into that next level.
So you were how old when this decision was made?
When I moved to Texas?
Moved to Texas, yeah.
As a teenager. I didn't go to college. I was on my own at 16. I got kicked out of my house when I was a 16-year-old. And I was rough around the edges back then. I was a good kid, but I was wild, they said Hoss is either going to be in jail or be a millionaire. That was me.
And thankfully it was the millionaires.
Yeah, right.
Right, and I very much relate to that story because I barely graduated high school. I wasn't a bad kid. I just didn't have that connection. Nothing really interested me. There was some family dynamics going on. My parents were going through a major divorce, and I barely graduated high school with a 1.8 GPA. So here I am now, right, as a therapist, as a coach, working with business owners and entrepreneurs. Like with my last client that was here right before our call, like we were talking about what the next step is from them. They're working for a government and they want to create something on the side. I'm like, this is a miracle.
Yeah.
And I pointed to the setup for the podcast. I'm like, because of that, that's led me to do this, to now have contact with people like you and the other people in our circles, like Matt Monero and other people that we're friends with, that would never have been fathomable to me as a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid who was on scholarship, who lived in a neighborhood where people were getting their, really wealthy families, and I wasn't, to see that I've become something that I want to become. And I think the key beautiful thing is that your fearlessness to take those steps really is what I want people out there to hear.
Yes.
So, like, is there some insight you can share? Because like I said, this sounds like it comes really naturally to you. Was there ever a place in your life where you did, we all have self-doubt. We all have, right, those moments of hesitation. But was there a moment in your life where you feel like that really turned on for you from where it was, where maybe you did have those limitations, those self-doubt, you were stuck more in your head versus I'm willing to burn the bridges to get it done?
Yeah, those are going to be – I'm going to touch on two things here because I want to add to what you said with, where you are and, where I am. And let me tell you something. Did you plan to be doing what you were doing when you were a teenager, right?
Absolutely not.
Exactly. Me neither. So, this weekend I have a nephew. I mentor my nephews. I love my nephews, I look at them like me up there in Missouri, just trying to bring them some insights, and changing the way they think. And I remember I had a conversation with my nephew. He was down at my lake house, and we were sitting on the back porch, and he goes, Uncle Hoss, I don't know what I want to be when I get older. He's 14 years old. This kid's a state champion wrestler. He's a stud athlete. And, he's a little mouthy, but he's a wrestler. And, he's just like I was back then, and he goes, but I don't know what I want to be. And I need to know. I go, listen, you're 14. I want you to understand something. I said, do you think that whenever I was in high school, that I would be doing what I'm doing now? Do you think that I thought that I would be an author and I would be a speaker and, I would go on to coach thousands of people to help generate millions of dollars? Listen, there's no way I could have ever fathomed that. There's no way I could have even fathomed not living where I was. I didn't know. At that time, I wanted to be a DJ on a radio station. I remember one time I wanted to be a tornado chaser because I watched the movie Twister, right? I remember I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be, and I had no clue. I said, here's what I've learned. And this is for all of our audience. This is so important. You never know where that path of you being committed and surrender to that process is going to take you. It's so much bigger than you could ever freaking imagine. So you'll never know where you're going. You know that where you're going is going to be good. It's going to make a difference. But to sit back and think in 10 years and 20 years you're going to be somewhere, this is what I want you to – what I've learned is you don't need to worry about that. The only thing you need to worry about is becoming the best you that you could be today. And truly working on yourself and being put in a place of unknown, uncharted water to where you have to rise to the occasion. You have to grow and become. You have to have faith. You have to, because you put it all on the line. Mm-hmm. What happens when you have that and you take those steps every day? You don't need to worry about where that's going to lead you. It's going to lead you to the greatest place you could ever be. So to sit back and think, this is where I want to be. How am I going to get there? To me, it's the wrong mindset. Don't worry about that. Start right now with your actions today. Do it again tomorrow. Grow every day. And that path in 5 years and 10 years, just like me, dude, it happened to me. It's happened to me multiple times. I can't believe I am where I am today. I freaking can't believe it. Can't. The only reason I ended up here is because every day I did the actions that I needed to do to become the best Hoss Pratt I could possibly freaking be. Every day weeding the garden, growing, what's holding me back, who do I need to weed out, what do I need to weed out, what habits did I create, what do I need to – and just always doing this. And, for me, that's the distinction, Jason, is that, buddy. That's life. And, I believe there's a God, and I believe in success. I think success is spiritual, and I've experienced that. You don't have to have it all figured out. You just need to have yourself figured out.
Absolutely. So you're really talking about what I love talking about with my clients is the concept of core values, right? When we met at Business Finishing School, everything goes back in Rick's world, right? To what are your core values and how you're making decisions from that. And the one thing that I realized, so a little bit of my backstory was, right, my family has a third generation furniture business and I'm the only sibling not in it. Because I went into this healer natural.
Great decision, by the way, Jason.
Right? Well, they're killing it and
Yeah.
they're doing amazing stuff, but they're also on one side consumed by the business, right? And it's an incredible, and they're passionate about it and they love it and they can't see themselves doing anything differently. And I've always been the person that wants to connect in deep, meaningful ways with other people. And this idea of making decisions from core values is something that I want to share with everybody out there. But the idea that I also want to go back to something you said before is like when you're willing to burn something down is that the idea that if we're going to build something, we want to build something that's sellable, right? That you don't become your business, right? Because you can have people that can take over for you and do your workshops and train under you and agents that are under you, that you don't want it to be all around you because then you don't have that freedom that you want to create. Right. And the idea that you also touched on, which is like 10 years from now, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. It might be bigger, better, hopefully, than just being in my static office. But I think that key idea of core values of the spiritual side of things has to be there. Law of attraction, universe, God, karma, chi, whatever we want to call it. Those are the things that I think that people lose out on. And my biggest takeaway that I've learned 3 years ago when a buddy of mine convinced me, it took him 1.5 to 2 years to convince me to go to the Business Growth Summit from Business Finishing School. 2 years asking me to go. I'm not an entrepreneur. I'm a therapist. I'm not a business guy. That was my mindset. I don't need to know all that. People are going to want to work with me because of my personality. I finally went, spent the weekend with Rick, right? And I walked out, I'm like, holy crap, I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I realized that through my work now with my clients, that entrepreneurship is a personal development platform.
Absolutely.
And I think you're an example of that. I'm trying to be an example of that. I want to share with our listeners out there that if you run your core values like you're doing, your priorities, you're picking and weeding who you're letting into your life, who you're getting out of your life, spirituality as a focus, do you believe that there's going to be exponential? Like people can be successful without doing that. But do you think that there's going to be exponential, simpler success with that?
Without what?
If you don't have your core values clear, if you are letting people into your life that are bringing chaos, you can still be successful.
Yes. You're not going to be happy. You won't be fulfilled. I'll just hit everybody between the eyes. You will not be fulfilled if you don't have a spiritual side to this. Won't happen. Every person I've ever met that didn't was not fulfilled, was not happy. Like I've done this. There's a component to it. It's not about success. It's about fulfillment. Like whatever it is you're missing to be fulfilled. Like it's about one life fully lived, fulfilled, and you don't want to get it wrong. Like you don't want to, spend 30 years of your life trying to build a business, but in the process, you've destroyed every relationship you've ever had in life, right? Like, so to me, it's important that you keep an open mind. And I think as an entrepreneur, that's key, is because it is about personal growth. Being an entrepreneur it's all personal growth. It's about growing, right? Like, you aren't, because you're going to have to learn to grow. Even if you grow and become a CEO, you still have to learn all the things you got to learn to be CEO to grow. And through that process. So I'm with you. Being, personal development is something that it changed my life. It's what got me out of where I came from. And it led me to a fulfilled life because, I became, a different person, and I continue to grow and I continue to work on it, man. Like, just last night I was sitting on, with my wife, and I'm sitting here journaling, right? I'm just writing things. Why? It's just personal development. Like it's in me. And I think that that's an important thing for everybody, is to go within and to develop yourself and to keep an open mind in that process.
So you're saying for all the people out there, right, if your just focus is the dollar bills in the bank account, we're missing the whole point of it.
Yeah, dude. Hey, listen, let me tell you something about Jason. I make a lot of money and I always have, but I've never been obsessed with the money, because I've never have, man. Like I'm telling you, the money comes. Like it comes. As long as I'm doing the things that I need to be doing, the money comes. So if I'm always focused on the money, it's the wrong mindset.
So the relationships, the connections, the spirituality, those are the top three.
And you growing.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you grow, money will come.
Yeah. So then how do we help the people that are listening, these young emerging adults, these young professionals, these new entrepreneurs, or people who are deciding maybe I'm maybe they're a realtor and they're wanting to create something else. They want to create their own brokerage, whatever it may be. What do they really truly need? Like, what are those first steps to realize, like, hey, I don't know if I'm in the right vertical. I don't know if I'm in the right platform. I don't even know if I'm in the right field, or I don't know if I'm working for the right boss or the right agency. Like, what are some of the things that they can ask themselves to help figure those things out?
You know, I'm writing a book right now called Skillionaire, and it's for anybody, but it's really for the young person, that person. You know, the thing that any young person needs to be focused on is developing skills. They don't need to be focused on, do I work for the right person? Like, listen, who cares who you work for, as long as the opportunity is allowing you to build skills. So, for example, selling is a skill that I think everybody needs to have. Like, listen, man, you're a therapist though, buddy, and you had that epitome, you know, that epiphany that you're an entrepreneur, right? And it's like, yeah, because you still have to be, grow that business. You still have to sell your services.
Sure.
And
I have to close the deal.
Closing the deals.
Right. And I have to make sure that the people I'm working with are in alignment with the core values of the people I want to spend my time with in my office during the day.
That's right. So like for me, it's about this. It's about, you need to develop skills. And it's about, the first skill you develop is selling. You know, Jimbo, you would tell me this. He goes, you need to master selling. And he didn't tell me this, but I discovered this. Here's how you master selling: is you get in a place where you have to sell repetitiously. So like when I moved to Texas, I got a job as I was in my 400 square foot apartment, not knowing what I was going to do. I got a job going door to door as a door-to-door salesman. And I would knock 100 doors a day, and I would knock every door, every floor, and I would not cherry pick, and I would pitch. I would speak to 100 people a day, and I would and it would be hot outside, and I'd be going into a high rise, going from the floor 7 to 13 to 15 to 19, back down to 3. Why? Because we're skipping floors so security doesn't kick us out, right? No soliciting in buildings, But here's what that taught me, Jason. It taught me selling. Like, I've mastered selling, going door to door. And let me tell you something, that skill set me free. There's nothing I can't do because of that skill. And so the first thing I would do is, you need to be good at selling, communicating, and find the job that's gonna enable you to be in that place to grow that skill.
So how much would you say that person has to believe in the product, right? There's people out there who are in a field that they don't buy in, they don't believe in, but it's a sales-based field. How much of that does that play out, do you think, in your mind, in your perspective about that?
It's important, okay, but it's not everything. I'll give you an example. I was selling a $45 spa coupon door to door. All right, we would do a promotion with a spa, and we'd say we're gonna get all these 500 people to come into the spa for free, and we're gonna give them 4 services: haircut, highlight, mini manicure, little mini pedi, right? And I would go sell women and men. I didn't care. Men that would buy them for their wives or kids or gifts. And did I believe in that $45 spa coupon? I made myself believe in it, right? Mm-hmm. Meaning I knew most people didn't do anything with it. Most people never used a single visit. Is that my responsibility? No. If somebody used all 4 visits, would it be worth it? Absolutely. Like, they would get value. So like, there's products like that like you're selling, that if they use it, that it will work, right? Like, if, for example, I sell info products. I have many courses I've sold online. Let me tell you something. If I have no problem selling my courses, some people do, because they think, oh, well, nobody's going to go through it anyway. I don't care if you go through it, because the value has been established the moment that you bought it. If you go through it, Jason, that's up to you. It's not up to me. I believe in that product if you go through it, right? But it's up to you to do it. But I'm going to sell it to you, and I'm going to sell it with passion. And so I think that, when it comes to believing in somebody's product, you don't necessarily, what they do with your product is not your responsibility. And if you go there and you make it your responsibility, then it's the wrong way to think, because it's not. Your job is to sell that product, because your product works if people use it.
So what about those people who are going from conference to conference? They're buying products over and over again. They think it's going to be their next silver bullet, and yet they just never follow through. They never follow up, right? And I find this a lot, like in the chiropractic world. I find a lot with realtors, and in the general entrepreneur space. But like it's always the next thing that's going to be the silver bullet. What do you think is that one thing that's holding, or the few things that are holding people back from investing and actually taking that next step and opening up your program, opening up that DVD, whatever it might be?
Here's my advice. It's not more information you need, it's more skills that you need. And so the only way that you're going to develop those skills is applying that information that you bought, the information that you gained at the seminar. And, so I have a framework I follow. It's the 4 levels of skills. Number 1 is you don't know what you don't know. Right now, you don't. That's why you got to keep an open mind. Because, listen, there's things you don't know, right? This universe works in ways that if you think you know how it all works, you're insane, right? Yep. There's so much that happens in the background that the human mind just cannot comprehend. So we got to keep an open mind. 2 is once you know something. Some people go to a seminar, they hear it, they know it. Oh, I know that. And they hear it, and they just think that they know it. But that's the mistake, because 3 is where the magic happens, and that is experiencing what you know. You must experience what it is you know in the trenches, in the marketplace, in the streets, over and over and over again, to where at number 4, it becomes a skill. And that experience part is oftentimes it's in 100 calls a day. It's in knocking, 100 doors. It's in every door, every floor. It's in writing the book. It's in going to the cave and creating the course. It's in sitting here and recording this podcast and experiencing it and going for it. That's where the magic is. So don't worry about developing the skill. The skill will be the byproduct of you experiencing what it is you know. So out of all of those things, look at experience. Be obsessed with just doing the work. That's the reason I'm talking to you today, is because I've always been the guy who's done the freaking work, dude. I will go to the cave and I will start outlining my book. I will write my book. I will write the course. I told my wife this yesterday. We were talking about somebody. I said, honey, you know why I am the way I am? Because where I've been the last 2 days. She goes, in your office. I go, that's right. You know what I've been doing? Writing my course. 2 days in the jungle by myself. No seminars to go to, nobody to make me feel better. It is lonely, Jason. It's me and my thoughts and going deep into thinking and applying what I know. And in that process, to me, that's where all the magic happens. It happens in the cave. It happens when I was selling real estate, and I would make calls from 9 to noon every freaking day. I was the only agent that did it, but I did it. And that's why I was successful. When I went on the road and did seminars, I did 3 seminars a day, 5 days a week in different places. I've done over 1,000 seminars in 48 states. Why? Because for me, I like to be in the jungle, and the jungle is where it's at. And there's freedom in the jungle. And I think that that's the thing that most people avoid, man, is they're trying to go to the seminar to avoid the jungle. They think the product's going to keep them away from the jungle. And pretty soon they've wasted 10 years of not being in the jungle. Now they have no skills. And now their mindset's jacked. So then they look at people who did go to the jungle for 10 years and then they start judging them. And then they got to tell themselves a story to make themselves feel better. You see how all this works? You're a therapist, right? I've never done therapy, buddy, but I always said a great salesman could be a therapist. You get what I'm saying? I got it figured out on that.
Yeah.
Right?
I agree. Yeah, and as I'm hearing you talk about this, right, and you sitting there being locked away, putting all this stuff down on paper, organizing, right, planning a program, planning a course, planning a workshop, planning a book, how do you keep it all organized? Because I think that's one of the things that this idea of instant gratification holds us all back from, is that the book is magically going to pop out. The course is magically going to pop out. The followers that we want to engage with in social media is instantly going to show up. What are some of your tips and tricks to help you organize it all?
I thrive in the chaos.
Okay.
I don't look for organization. So I was once told that money flows in chaos, and you got to be willing to be okay in the chaos. And so for me, it's, that's how I like to do things. I don't I don't have to have everything planned out. I'm not an analytical thinker either, though. I know some analytical thinkers listening would have to have it all planned out. I just go, and I just go. I go with my instincts. I go with the direction. I create in the direction I want to be, and I'm always working towards where I want to be, working towards that message. Like Skillionaire, I'm writing that book because it's on my heart. Like the message is in me, and it seems right. And right. And so for me, as long as and that's the spiritual side. Like, I think that, I feel like I'm being led, right? Where I am being led. I'm being led to the next level. I'm being led with the next book, the next message, the next audience. And so for me, I mean, I just lean into it. And I know it's going to be sloppy in the middle. Let me tell you something about a book. Let's say if you want to write a book, and I've written a book, this book right here, boom, great book. If you're in real estate, this is, if you're not in real estate, this is a great book. Over 165-star reviews. It's the #1 international bestseller. Like, if you told my people from St. Joe that this book would come out of me, they'd tell you you're on drugs, But, like, that's personal growth. But here's what happens. This book existed. It started with a title. And then the title started with the subtitle. And then I went in and I wrote the 12 chapters. Just not that wrote the chapter, but what would the 12 chapters be to this book? You see, here's what happens. You think you can write a book, but the book doesn't happen until you begin writing the book. And when you begin writing the book, that's when the things come to you. The title comes to you, the subtitle, the chapters, what's going to go in the chapters, how are we going to leverage it? So all that stuff comes into you in the jungle. You can't just sit back and say, where's my book? The finding is reserved for the seekers. So the only way you're going to write the book is by going and leaning into that process, and the book will come out of you. But here's the thing about that process. At no time did it feel organized, me writing my book. At no time did it feel like the book was complete. At every time it felt sloppy. It felt messy. It felt convoluted. And it wasn't until the book was finally done, where it was printed, where I opened up that box at the very end when they shipped me this book, that I look at it and I felt like it was a completed project. So some people wanted that completed project in the process. You see that? Like, they want the book written when they came up with the title, and not me. Like, I know that as long as I lean into that process, the end result will be the physical result, right? And that's how it is in creating. That's how it is in any time you create anything. It's always going to be sloppy.
So if someone were following you for a week, what would they kind of see you doing, like, on a day-to-day basis? Because I know your hands are in so many different projects. So for those of people out there who don't know all the things you got your hands in, what would they see you doing?
They're going to see me on every day. I coach, I create, I present. And so for me, that's what I do. I coach both in groups and through live streaming coaching, whether I'm through different organizations or one-on-one. I'd be speaking, presenting. Like right now I'm doing this. I've got a Facebook live show right after this I'm doing, where I go live once a week, every week, and I have a live show. For that, I'm gonna have several projects. I'm writing a course right now. I'm writing a book right now. I've got several different partnerships. I've got several affiliates going. Every day it's like, but here's what I love. That's me, man. I don't want to call myself ADD, because I think everybody, whatever, dude. I'm an entrepreneur, but I like to be able to do multiple things like that. I like to speak. I like to write. I like to coach, right? And I like to work with different people. And I just organize my life to where that's what I do every day, man. It's what I do. I just, wake up and step into my day and what I've built.
Yeah. And I remember when I first heard you talk, one of the most important things for you is your family.
Yes.
How do you balance that with everything that you got going on here and all that going on there? How do you do that?
Nothing's more important than my family. So I'm not building a business that takes me away from that. My business is simply a vehicle that supports me and allows me to be in a place to be a leader for my family as a husband and a father. So for me, I've had great mentors and coaches around parenting. I've got, I've got 3 daughters, and I've got an amazing wife. I'm married to a beautiful Texan girl that I would have never met if I didn't move here. Beautiful. I'm like, from where I'm from, she wouldn't have been up there. You know, they're not like that up there where I'm from. So like she married her. She's my best friend. And for me, man, it's that. It's just, you know, being intentional with this moment in my life. Where do I want my business to be? And I don't look like my business is not my life. It truly isn't. And like I said, I would leave it all today and for something bigger, just, you know, as I surrender to that process. But, you know, for my family, it's about changing the family tree, raising leaders. I tell my kids every day, you know, you're a leader. I tell them every day I love them. I'm proud of them. And for me, it's about not raising my kids, but it's raising my grandkids through my kids. So that distinction for me is what defines me as a parent, is I'm raising my grandkids. And that's really my legacy, man. Like when I'm gone, like you're going to see me through my kids. Like they're like me, dude. They are like, you know, they're going to be, I don't know what they're going to be doing, but they're going to be doing something big.
Yeah.
And I don't care what they do, Jason. I don't. So like they could do anything. And to me, like how your family wanted you to be in the furniture business, my family wanted me to be in the insurance business. And I think it's important with our kids to not put them in a place that, you know, like just because we did it, we want them to do it, because everybody has their own gifts. And if we can, you know, raise kids through core values. Let me tell you something, Jason. I have family core values, buddy, not only for my business, but I have family core values right on my wall, right when you walk down the stairs, 12 feet tall, every one of our core values. And when they walk down the stairs, they see it. When they're not doing one of those core values, I have them go to the stairs and go read those core values. I'm brainwashing my kids, Jason. That's what I call it, brainwashing them.
Spot on. I was on a call with Jim Shields, who I'm not sure if you met at the last summit, who has
Is that 18 Summers?
Yeah.
He screwed me up with that 18 Summers thing too. You only have 18 summers with your kids.
Yeah, and it's so amazing because we just had this conversation and we just talked about two of the things you just said, where parents don't say enough, I love you, I'm proud of you. So when you hit that, I'm like, oh man, you're on it. You're doing it. You're living it. You're proof of it. But that's such a key thing, that I love you, I'm proud of you. And I find that a lot of entrepreneurs and people in this space that we're sharing are looking to get that from whoever they're selling to.
Yeah, or, you know, for me, it's funny. I had this conversation with my brother, you know, and my brother just, you know, he's different than me. You know, he's struggled with different things in life. And, you know, we were, not that I haven't struggled with things, but, you know, it's like we've all have our struggles, right? But like, I remember I was talking to him this over the weekend because they came down from Missouri. And I said, you know, what's funny that I've learned is everything that I didn't have as a kid that I wanted so bad is what makes me who I am today. Like, the fact that my dad never once told me he loves me, like he didn't. And I love my dad. The reason he didn't say he loves me because his dad didn't say it to him, right? You know, the people like in the 60s and 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, y'all, go tell your freaking kids you love them. There's nothing wrong with expressing love, right, Jason?
They're the ones who are going to give you the handshake when they see you as your child versus.
Yeah, dude. Like my dad didn't tell me he loved me until I was 20. And then it was like, okay, I love you. And it was like hard to say. Right.
Like it didn't happen. Yeah.
And he never once said he was proud of me. Never. Like I from everything I've done, it was just, and as a kid, as a child, I just wanted to be told, Hoss, I love you. Hoss, I'm proud of you. But that's what drives me today, right? Not today, but that's what drove me to leave there, to go do something bold, was because I just wanted my dad's love. Like and some of you might think, oh, that sounds cheesy. Let me tell you something. That's self-work. Like every one of us has to do the self-work to go work on ourselves. That's personal development, to find what drives us. You know what drives me was whenever I was 5 years old, I was driving down the road. We were in a farm truck and we were going down the road and we were delivering we were delivering mattresses to a guy in town. And all of a sudden we hit this bridge. We were on a bridge and I was leaning against the door because we didn't wear seatbelts then. And I fell out of the truck going down the highway, down the road. And I rolled, and as I rolled, I was almost rolled off the bridge into the creek. And I have a scar right here, cracked my head. And in that moment, my dad slams on the brakes. He gets out. He runs around the truck, comes up to me, bawling, and I could just see the fear in him. And he comes up and he picks me up and he just is crying and he's holding me. That's the reason I'm driven, because I've always wanted to find that love in my dad. And he wouldn't tell me, but I knew it was there because I saw it. You see what I'm saying? It's so good, dude. This is the breakthrough stuff.
Right. And these are the conversations I want people to hear, that it's not about your social media followers. It's not about who you're, what parties you're going to and where you're living. It's really about these deep, meaningful memories, these deep, meaningful connections. It's living in your purpose, living in your spirituality, living your core values. And I don't think this is shared enough in our entrepreneurial space.
Right. Right. Because a lot of entrepreneurs are like that. We have something to prove, but like, everything that I didn't get, this is the thing with all of us. Just because my dad didn't say, because he didn't tell me I love you and I'm proud of you. And I love him, he does today, right? But early on he wouldn't. And because of that, now I'm able to do that for my kids. And it took me to go through that pain, right? It's not pain. That's growth. The journey. It's so growth. I could be an amazing dad. So I know what not to do or what to do. And I think that's important. So you can't blame somebody for what they've done. You got to also thank them for what they've done, what they've helped you become.
100%. Spot on with that. So as we wrap up our time, the last question I want to ask you is what I call the on 2 feet, on 1 foot question, right? And if you had 2 minutes to kind of sum up the best, most important thing, that if you had 2 minutes to share with someone and you would never see them again, and you want to have an impactful, meaningful, profound influence on them, what might that be?
I'm going to tell them that you can achieve anything in life and business that you want to achieve and become, anything. And you do this by, number one, you got to have the right mindset always. Always check your mindset. You always got to be growing your mindset, changing your mindset, assessing your mindset, because everything starts with your mindset and how you think. 2 is you need models to follow. You need coaches, you need mentors, you need products, you need books, you need systems, you need strategies, you need models to follow, where you're not out there reinventing a model. It's where you can just follow a proven model that works, and you don't have to worry about, all the details of the model, because 3 is massive action. You've got to take massive action in life and business. And the way you do that is by following a proven model. Don't go reinvent the model, but follow a proven model with the right mindset. So here's the secret to anything. Mindset models, massive action. You can do anything. So if you're not getting results in life, it's because you don't have the right mindset, you don't have a model you're following, and you're not taking massive action. So find the model that is going to help you get to where you want to be. Tune into things like this to always question and change your mindset. Grow. This is the first. The fact that they're listening to this is great. This is what changes mindset. And then do your part. Go to the jungle every freaking day. Be in love with going to the place that nobody else is going. Fall in love with that process and take massive action. And that would be my advice if I was standing on one leg.
Awesome. And for those out there who don't know you, now that they do know you and they want to get in touch with you, they want to get your book, they want to find your courses, they want to be mentored by you, how can they track you down?
Go to listingbossacademy.com. That's LISTINGBOSS academy.com. Go there, check it out. I've got an incredible model for anybody that wants to grow a business, not just in real estate, but in any business. Go there, check it out. Follow me. I don't know. I think there's only one Hoss Pratt. It's HOSSPRATT. You can find me on that handle at nearly every social platform. Go follow me. We've got tons of content, videos, stuff like that. Try to help you out there, leave you all better than I found you. And also get my book, Listing Boss. Yeah, go get this. It's you can get it on Amazon, or you can go to listingbossbook.com. Just pay shipping and handling. It's just $7.95. So go to listingbossbook.com and get it there.
Awesome. Really want to express a ton of gratitude for you to spend the time today. I know you have this Facebook Live shift waiting for you on the other end of this call, but I really appreciate you. Obviously, if anybody out there has any questions, I'm sure they can hit you up. They can hit me up. Is there going to be any upcoming events that you're going to be speaking at in the near little bit? Any conferences? Yeah, we're going to be in Salt Lake City, I think, coming up in September. You can find information there on my social media. But yeah, there's always doing events, but we got a big one coming up there in September. Beautiful. Awesome. Well, we look forward to connecting with you again soon. Yes, sir. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening to the You Winning Life podcast. If you are ready to minimize your personal and professional struggles and maximize your potential, we would love it if you subscribe so you don't miss an episode. You can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at You Winning Life.